Thank you for your interest in this sharing about an evaluation of the Victim Care Cadre program that was conducted by myself and my colleague Tiffany from the Police Psychological Services Department. The VCCP is a victim assistance program that aims to provide emotional and practical support for victims throughout the criminal justice processes, while also indirectly facilitating investigations. A unique point about the VCCP is that the services are rendered by community volunteers known as victim care officers, and this differs from most victim care services embedded in international police organizations, where police officers are trained to take on the liaison and supporting roles. The VCCP has expanded significantly since it launched in 2014, and today we have over 100 victim care officers supporting victims of all crime types in a tiered approach. In light of the program's growing maturity, we conducted a comprehensive evaluation at a 7-year checkpoint to assess whether the VCCP has been working well and also effectively meeting its objectives. These are the 4 key stakeholders in the program, and the present study conducted a process and outcome evaluation of the VCCP with a specific focus on the perspectives of IOs and victims. Nonetheless, it should be noted that this is part of a wider ongoing evaluation that seeks to examine the perspectives of all stakeholders. To structure the planning and implementation of our evaluation, we adopted the logic model framework, which we found to be suitable to evaluate the VCCP. This is our constructed logic model for the program. As you can see, the model illustrates the activities and their intended outputs and outcomes concerning each stakeholder. And theoretically, these links would facilitate the program's long-term goal to increase support for victims as well as the efficiency of the criminal justice system. For this study, only the links related to victims and IOs were tested to answer our process and summative evaluation questions. Data was collected from 33 victims and 18 IOs who engaged the program in 2021 through a feedback form and semi-structured interviews respectively. For the victim's perspective, we examined the links associated with their experience of support, and here are some of the key findings. The top reported reason for engaging the program was to receive emotional and moral support which align with our program objectives. Victims also reported experiencing positive rapport with the VCOs as well as high levels of emotional support in the form of active listening and practical support such as learning about coping strategies and community resources. These activities contributed to the overwhelmingly positive evaluation about the program's success, usefulness, and achievement of objectives, as well as the VCO's effectiveness in rendering support. Taken together, the findings support the links leading to victims' experience of quality support that will facilitate their return to normalcy. Moving on to the IOs, we examine the links associated with their willingness to activate the VCCP services. Process evaluation reviewed the IOs were knowledgeable of the program's tiered SOPs and also evaluated the activation process to be simple, structured, and efficient. However, there were also some barriers that were surfaced regarding the activation process, such as the activation lag time and also difficulties scheduling sessions due to victims' limited availability. As for the outcome evaluation, most of the IOs displayed accurate understanding of VCO's roles in the program, with the exception of a few who endorsed the misconception that VCOs provide long-term counseling services instead of short-term psychological first aid. Importantly, IOs perceived the VCOs as competent and helpful during investigations and were generally willing to activate the services. Therefore, these findings corroborates the links leading to IOs' willingness to activate the services. And finally, we also tested the links associated with investigation facilitation. We found that IOs acknowledged the instrumental role of cooperative victims in providing the necessary information for police work. Interestingly, there was no perceived changes in victim cooperation levels after they received support from VCOs. Nonetheless, the IOs highlighted that VCOs indirectly facilitate investigations by stabilizing victims emotionally and mentally such that the IOs can focus more on their police work and less on attending to victims. Therefore, the links associated with investigation facilitation could also be reliably established. All in all, our study provided empirical evidence that the VCCP processes are working well and effectively achieving its objectives of supporting victims and facilitating investigations. Some important implications of this study include the justification for continued funding to maintain and expand the program, and also shedding light on gaps that can be addressed by our proposed recommendations for future administration. If you would like to find out more about this evaluation study or about the Victim Care Cadre program, please feel free to contact myself or Tiffany.